So with the guys that you're seeing, that are in your center and people in general, what are you seeing from a mental health and addiction standpoint?
Um, Luckily, for some, most of them, luckily they're in treatment. So luckily they're in a spot to process this stuff. So do I still have guys, face to face wanting to fight? Yeah. In the streets, they might have already, taken action, but at least inside, there's there's 9 of us that work there,
Okay.
and so there's always staff. There's always staff on hand and counseling to be had. And we built, luckily, a crew of dudes that they're starting to self-regulate. I'm
Mm,
pretty impressed, to be honest with you.
mm,
The group of guys in there, I probably got 5 leaders that I count on. They can self-regulate. I got mixed race big time, so I can tap on shoulders and say, "Hey, we got to control this shit." So it's not just me and my staff. It's like
you got your
it's a legit
lieutenants.
social experiment. Yeah, it's a legit social experiment. These guys, I'm like, all right, dude, somebody's in charge of the kitchen, and you 5 do this, and you 5 are in charge of this, and let's open up that shed and build some shit, and build some benches and tables, and who's in charge of technology? Let's get some movies in here and all that stuff. And they've grown together, so it's pretty tight. I'm like, this is bomb. This is working hella good. So I'm happy with that part, but you can see also, I didn't know how significant mental health medication can be, because
Yeah.
some of these dudes without it are sociopaths,
Wow.
psychopaths. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, I never knew what that looked like
And it's
so significantly,
not like they're making
No,
rational choices anymore at that point, right? Like you don't even recognize them, right?
no. You can tell that they're not even in the same person. I'm like, whoa, what happened here, man? So keeping it straight, that's the plan. Should be
Yeah.
good.
No, it's what do you think too with in general, like the general population, the I don't know if there's a way to quantify it, but the anxiety, the depression, the just everyone's feeling lost and everyone's
Yeah.
feeling crazy, not because but it's warranted, it's crazy because it's a crazy time, So what are you seeing with those kind of mental health predicaments or conditions?
That part, it gets pretty significant. Without people getting outside and getting the fresh air and getting the nature, if they aren't doing that, it's that toggle. It's A and B, because some people have taken the opportunity, and this is why my business is going a little crazy right now. Is some people have taken the opportunity to go deeper into their disease, whether it's mental health or addiction. And
Mm,
when you give someone the green light, like, "Hey, you don't need to be at work. You're not supposed to be at work, and you shouldn't go out," and they say, "Not a problem. I'll just go in my house and isolate for as long as you want me to," they
mm.
just dive right into their addiction. It's that part, not good, not good at all.
Yeah, and there's less checks and balances and less, like you said, touch points to reality or other people or something to sort of bring them back a
But
little
yeah,
bit, right?
they can hide. They go hide. With someone going into their disease, it's caused people to reach out for help because they start to notice
Mm,
that it's time that this is, it's really just come to the surface. A lot of people can self-medicate through being busy.
hmm.
So that's the other side of the coin, is that people, when they had their jobs and they were busy and they had all these things going on, and they had to hurry up and go to the bank, or hurry up and be here, and hurry up and be there, and hurry up and go do this, and all of a sudden they're told, "Be still, don't go anywhere, you can't work." All of a sudden, someone who thought, I'm fine, and we're self-medicating with being busy and uh, so many other maladaptive approaches, are like, "I have more of a problem than I thought."
Yeah,
So that
it
drives
all
me to
catches
dive
up to them,
deeper. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the asking for help has come up too, though.
which is great that people
My,
are asking for help. I mean, if there's not many silver linings of this, but I mean, the whole mental health conversation and people not feeling a stigma and maybe resources for people to go or even just common sharing of information, hopefully that increases just because everyone is just, so strung out with, anxiety and depression and it's crazy. Yeah. Huh.
uh, yeah. And when I'd say information is key, but then application is the next step. So I think during this time where people get the isolation, information starts to be coming to the surface of, I need to know this, I need to know this. But practical implementation of being social and getting out and doing what needs to be done, there might be a time delay is what I'm saying. And that time delay could be when the summer hits and spring hits here and people are free to do what they need to do. We find out, do they go back to old habits and old Band-Aids, or do they seek the more permanent lifestyle structure that can get them healthy?
Yeah, it's a good point. And also what you spoke to, the timing of it, the delay, like things are way worse now than they were 3, 4 weeks ago, right?
What
But
are?
just in general, I mean, the number of people getting sick, the number of people dying, the
Yes.
economy. I mean, it's just, but it's almost like we've started to adjust to it. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or desensitized. You could hear on the radio or the TV, whatever, 1,000 people dead today in New York, and that almost means has less context now because that's been every day. Where when it was all brand new, I remember trying to from the Philippines and trying to talk to a client in California, and I was doing a little podcast
Right.
interview like this, and like I was thinking about like, oh my God, how the hell can I stockpile food for the next 30 days, this lockdown? How could I keep my girlfriend safe and not get killed? How could I, there's people,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to take out money on the street. There's people like, robbing people. Like what if they, it's very realistic if the hotel shuts down, I'm out on the street. And he's talking about, sales and, closing techniques and driving his nice car and it just like business as usual. I'm like, holy shit. So that was a time lag because they hadn't really gone under it much. But basically, what I'm saying is, I think we desensitize, we develop some coping mechanisms. Like I remember even when I first came back here, it was like, I mean, definitely anxiety was crazy, and I have anxiety to begin with, but I would like wake up almost in a cold sweat and like look at the phone and look at news articles, and it was not helping me. I would feel like immediately like anxiety, like really bad every time I did that, but I also still wanted to somehow be connected to information and some sort of maybe validation that I wasn't alone in this.
Right.
But now it's definitely not like that. So it's not the situation has gotten better. I think that we learn how to find a healthier balance or what things help or what things hurt us maybe.
Yeah. I'm not going to make a huge political statement, but I might.
Oh, go ahead, bro. It's okay.
I'm telling you this to redefine what is and isn't essential. And I definitely would cower to think I'm minimizing what's going on. But I'm wondering if this is a strong enough message, what's happening in the next 3 or 4 months. If it lasts longer, I think it's going to be even more, as like that thing about that time delay. The longer the time, the more of the impact. And I think the redefinition of what is essential, I think big picture, it's critical for humanity, to be honest with you. And I saw one of the best memes through this whole thing. I didn't post it or anything, but it was kind of like, especially in the United States, and I'm in California even, when we talk about immigration and such. And it's like, hey, next time you want to, implicate and criminalize someone trying to improve their life and get to a better place, just remember how much you fought over toilet paper.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's huge perspective shifts. It's like, yeah, when I thought I was going to have to be in lockdown for 3 weeks, I'm like, I better get some cans, beans, rice, toilet paper, and we just have this internal human mechanism is like survive.
How quickly the switch flipped to primal mode, right?
Yeah, when you literally have people in other countries, and we're all brothers and sisters, right? I don't care what border you're crossing. It's this interesting thing of, hey, if someone from Nevada came to California, I'd be like, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
But if you cross a different border called Mexico to the United States, it's like, well, that's a different border, bro, and I don't like you, and you can't seek a better life here. What? It's like, no, it's interesting. I don't want to say one's right or wrong, but my perception is that knowing what is and isn't essential, and maybe reconnection to your family and that smaller immediate family and even extended family goes beyond where it was. And I hope that happens to some degree, that people look at the value of each other as opposed to the things that you were referencing, which is, I really got to get that promotion at work versus I really got to volunteer at my community.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go way more tribal. Because for a couple of reasons, geographic, limitations on traveling and how we could geographically, physically move around. Trying to take care of our families, and like I'm here in Newtown, Connecticut, right, it's actually where the Sandy Hook school shooting took place, but this is where my sister lives. Beautiful, like in the woods, sort of spread out community, nice people, but a lot of money. And they're saying, oh, I want to give back, I want to help. They're saying, okay, who in this community needs help? And I'm like, but 20 minutes away there's Bridgeport, which is one of the worst cities in the Northeast. So, but it's tribal. They want to help people close to them and almost like put up the, get behind the castle walls and pull up the drawbridge and get behind the moat and sort of take care of their own. So I think that could be good, the tribal thing, but I think it's also, well, like I said before, the disparities of race and income are really, really going to be magnified 10 times over. I mean, already now we see, this war against mail-in voting. Obviously we know what that's about, right?
Right. It's funny you say that, because I started to notice the same thing. But I did, to be honest with you, I can see the negative, but I also saw a huge positive.
Okay.
Is to start to learn more interdependence on each other in a smaller community, as opposed to the corporate structures.
Gotcha.
And maybe I'm super idealistic, but I also think, you know what? Some people are going to start growing their own food. Some people are going to choose to go back supporting their small business on the street corner 2 blocks from them to buy clothing, even, as opposed to going to the big box stores. And you know how I am, but I think a big part of this right now, corporations are taking massive advantage of the shutdown of the small business guy.
Oh, yeah.
Small businesses are really dying right now. All my buddies and my friends, whether they're yogis or tea shop owners or hairstylists, they're getting shut down. And meanwhile, the Amazons and the big box stores are just like,
you think about the small.
They're going to survive. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're going to thrive. They're going to quadruple their market share in the throughout this term. But yeah, you think about it, like how can someone, even a small business owner, how could they even survive 1 month without pay, yet alone if it goes 3 months or 6 months, and then try to rebuild? And I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So I mean, now they're at 20%. What is it? 20% unemployment, and it's probably going to reach 40. Which is, I don't.
Their ability to weather that storm is difficult, because even when they do get opened back up, their client base is other people in the community that also have suffered. So there's going to be a time delay in them just being able to survive. So I hope there's some action there. But again, getting back to what's important, the local communities supporting each other and family and connecting back to your local small businesses. I think I hope that's where we go. And that tighter tribal, as I'm referencing that word you used, could be a huge positive.
And thinking about schools and thinking about community and thinking about our seniors and thinking about special needs kids and, making meals for people. And, hopefully it's like the only parallel we have on this is 9/11, really, right? Because that was the world changed instantly, and it was complete shock. But you remember that vibe for days, weeks, months after, where people would wave at each other and they were more polite, and they were, So I think of course we have social distancing now, but I think people still have that. They have their antennas out a little bit more, and like you said, they're looking out for their communities. And this is the kind of thing that once you go through this, I mean, talk to any old timer who went through the Depression. They're still stockpiling, cans of beans and burying their money in a can in the backyard. Like, It's
Yeah,
not going to be like, 6 months from now, everything's back to normal. People who have gone through this, and we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg for hard times, I think, it's going to be
yeah.
years and years. People who have gone through
We,
this are never going to forget it. I mean, it's going to change our attitudes and behaviors forever. So hopefully there's, like you said, some positive in that too.
that on that the bigger picture topic of mental health. Think about that. We literally hardwire trauma into our psyche.
Mm.
So literally hardwiring trauma into our psyche. Now, and like you said, if you've been through the depression, so as a child, think about our children right now, or anybody it applies to, but people that are younger in their lives are literally still developing their brains, and they're hardwiring this trauma, depending on the perception that they have about it, as a coping skill.
Yeah.
So developing these coping skills hardwired into your brain, we've got to be pretty vigilant about addressing that issue going forward.
There's got to be a lot of healing.
Whether a child or anybody takes on the role of a victim and just lets the ego magnify, I'm a victim, because the ego wants to attach to things, right? Generally speaking, the ego's job is to separate and to isolate and to say, I'm this, you're that. The ego loves to do that, right? So in trauma, especially like right now, what's happening is people can say, well, I need to identify with something. And if I don't identify with opportunity or the chance to take this isolation and grow and develop and retrench and identify with some internal satisfaction, what they end up doing is they identify with victim. And poor me, and I'm in big trouble. And you hardwire that. This coronavirus and this isolation isn't just about that right now. It's about what's going to happen over the next 5-6 years based on it. Just like you said with the depression, it's people hardwire and they still act that way decades later. So to be vigilant about that is prudent advice.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and it's going to manifest itself. I mean, you're going to be able to see pre and post coronavirus era and the rates of suicide, addiction, domestic violence, divorce, all sorts of things you're probably gonna see them spike once it manifests and it settles. But then again, like you said, not to be negative, but you're gonna see a whole lot more counselors and help and people that are planting their own gardens. That's the first thing I thought of, because in the Philippines there, it was like, how the hell are we going to eat? And I was, my girlfriend is like planting gardens. She lives in a rural area, but immediately she was buying seeds, planting, stuff and conserving like that. And, looking out, like you said, the tribal thing, looking out for her immediate neighbors and them all working together and people solving each other's problems. But with now, since we're still in the early stages of it, though people don't realize it, or it may not feel like that, and people are still at home, and you talked about young ones, what are some things people can do, like parents can do, to keep their children as, healthy and mentally healthy and well adjusted as possible throughout this?
My thinking would be, again, adjustment to perception. There's something I teach, and it can be a practical application on how to do the perception change. And it's not novel to my idea. I've heard people use it before, but I call it taking your meds.
Yeah.
And meds is an acronym for meditation, exercise, diet, sleep. And each one of those could be a daily practice. I want to speak adamantly, but it should be a daily practice. Every day meditation, which is a huge practice of literally just staying present. Can we stay in the present moment and seek some form of meditation? Not always just the zened out, no thought, which is the ultimate goal, is to reach a meditation, but any process you're doing, whether it's building a garden, reading books, listening to music, any practice that keeps you in a meditative state of being present. Exercise, so get the kids moving, get them outside, get them some sunlight, again, get the music going. Diet, which is the D, which really should be an N for nutrition, but it doesn't work that well with the acronym. But we could talk meds, but meds is much better. So don't diet, but look at your nutrition.
Yeah.
And then get good rest. This is an opportunity to improve your sleep and stop being busy. So there's some daily practices through taking your meds that can keep the perception focused enough that the opposite, which is focusing on the negative, is not the primary perception. The primary perception is I'm getting healthy.
Yeah.
If you're taking my meds. That's the way.
Interesting. And when you look at, you talk about perception, when you look at how many people will get sick, which is a lot, and how many people will die, which is a lot, and it's tragic, but the amount of stress and distress and depression and, vicious spirals of mental illness and everything that it's causing, the fear is causing, is almost going to kill more people than the virus. And I don't mean to minimize at all the health concern, right? But so that's why it's important that we practice that, and we know about the meds, and we practice it, and we change our ways, not only now but going forward, huh?
Well, I even skipped a step in the process, and I'm glad you're giving me a little bit of a leeway to talk about it right now, because you're right. Obviously, not minimizing the issue of the significant deaths that are going to happen now. But anytime we have an internal mechanism inside our body from our kidneys and our adrenal glands that produces cortisol under stress. And we need cortisol. It's our fight or flight mechanism. So literally, if you were, as a biological tool, as a human being, you need it. Like if you see a car crash and you've seen these superhuman strengths of feet where people are like, I need to lift this car off of this person, adrenaline and cortisol produce that for you. Mm-hmm. But the production of adrenaline and cortisol over time, high blood pressure, stress, anxiety, the thickness of your blood literally increases. So cholesterol, all these negative effects.
Wow.
The issue becomes, how do I, because it's not just literal face-to-face stress that causes the cortisol to be released, it's the perception of stress. So that's why our society, even before this issue of coronavirus came up, if you just are constantly watching the news or fearful, which is what the news is, you're in a constant state of cortisol levels being produced because you perceive fear, whether it happens or not. Yeah. And that's causing anxiety. So that's why we're overprescribing, or not over, but all-time high of prescription benzodiazepines, Xanax. It's this constant 24 hours perception of stress everywhere. And now this issue popping up and isolation. Yeah, the long-term effects of what can happen right now is we're flooding ourselves with this cortisol and this stress and the anxiety, that the long-term effect, and not only to add to that, but the financial stress that people are suffering from this, that does the same thing.
Man, so
some
it's
people
like,
they're not sleeping at night. By the way, to get rid of the cortisol in your system, guess you have to produce growth hormone. Growth hormone reduces cortisol. Guess when we produce growth hormone? When we sleep.
Wow.
So if you're not sleeping because of the financial stress, you're not getting rid of your cortisol, which produces more stress, which means you can't sleep more. And that's why in the meds, getting a good night's rest and some kind of way of meditation, you're dead on, Norm. This is going to have legs that go multiple directions than just the disease itself.
So, I mean, now more than ever, and then for years after, we need an army of people who are healers, not prescribers, right? Who are talking about
big time.
Education, but I mean, going into the schools and yoga and meditation, and let's grow, communities. We're going to give a free class how to grow rooftop gardens, and here are seeds, and here's, free exercise in the park for people, and and wealthy people already have access to that, whether they choose to or not. But it's really the people in our society who can't fend for themselves that really, really need it, huh?
Agreed. Totally agreed. That's why having a connection with you and building other social circles of people like us that can go out and affect a community is just genuine, authentic, and real. I love it.
Yeah, and that's That is, I tend to be, I'm a negative bastard, man. I just see the world's going to end at all times. And, but then anything that happens good, I'm pleasantly surprised. That's just how I see it. And it works for me, but I know you've already been doing so many positive things in the community, and you've had this great circle that's ever expanding of positive people who are healing, who are trying to bring consciousness and life into a new direction for people. So talk a little bit about that, about if you want, just about your organization and what you guys were already doing even before this whole mess happened.
I have a couple of fronts here, to be honest. So I run and manage Phoenix Wellness Sacramento, and I'm right now. It's funny you mentioned that we got on the call today, but I'm literally in the next 2 days rebranding Phoenix Wellness into a company called Surrender, Heal, Ascend, which is the process that we were following anyways. But SHA, which is Surrender, Heal, Ascend, is just a process where a group of us are getting together and as a community and social circles, teaching people how to surrender, teaching people how to heal, and then teaching some form of ascension, which is a reconnection to your own spirit. So that group of us in Sacramento and the broader Sacramento area, we're looking to get into so many other places geographically, but here we are now.
Yeah.
And to take that entity into the nonprofit that we also use, and we are going into school districts, going into communities of neighborhoods that are disadvantaged, that don't have access.
Yeah.
And providing the same services that we do for profit, but in the nonprofit setting also.
Wow. So, I mean, not only schools, but like disadvantaged communities. I know you're already helping. You have your sleeves rolled up in the prison system.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're not alone out there. There's a lot of good people who are doing some good things, huh?
I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of people that on a daily basis are fighting this battle, and to me it is a battle. This is spiritual warfare every day. So I get there's a lot of negativity to look at, but the spiritual battle of light versus dark is real, and there's a ton of professional people out there in the world of drug addiction and counselors that are so under the radar, doing nitty gritty, dirty work. With homeless populations, prison populations, kids that literally aren't in the school system because they don't have a role model or any kind of modeling that says you're supposed to, whether it be at home or on the street corner. So how do you reach people that aren't in a place to be reached? You have to put the boots on the ground and go get them.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
You can't do that from the ivory tower with with policy or even legislation or just theory, huh? You need to really get down in the communities and with the folks that you're trying to care for.
Man, Norm, you gave me a quote one time, and I never forgot it. You said you can't legislate morality, and you're right. And you also can't do this work with a profit motive all the time.
Yeah.
So you're right. That the ivory tower of let's do good but primarily from a balance sheet. Well, that's not going to work out a lot of times. So you would have to ignore the balance sheet to reach people that there's no profit in that, but there's a huge profit in the spiritual battle.
Yeah,
and that's where we're at.
That's very true. Like from the profit sheet perspective, and even further, I think a lot of people want to be good people and help and do good work in their community in theory. They just don't want to get their hands dirty. And it's not, maybe it's not, bad for them, it doesn't speak poorly on them. Maybe they've never interacted with folks like that. Maybe they're not from that background. It's just extreme discomfort. So I guess it's just bridging the gap and bringing people together any way you can and giving them these tools, right? So they could they're empowered to actually not be a victim and to start working on their own lives and their own spirituality.
It's very relevant. So if you were to buy into the theme that we're all part of one universal consciousness, we all are affected by everybody else. So to think, and it's my personal belief, is to think you're insulated from the people that are suffering because you're physically insulated from the people that are suffering. That doesn't solve any issues.
Yeah.
So you're right. If people just don't know how to do the work, or they're fearful of doing the work because they don't want to get near those communities for wherever their biases or fears might be based on in their life. There are people that'll do it. And the fact that they're doing it is increasing the universal consciousness and that vibe, which does benefit the very people that think they're insulated. So there could be in the future a real shift in those circles of knowledge, knowing from the top to the bottom that we can improve everybody's life by improving one person's life. That's not the perception of they're not reachable. It's like, that's not true.
Wow, that's amazing. How about for folks who are, for folks who are empaths, which we both are, right, to some degree, it's brutal right now, and to healthcare workers and teachers and, people like you on the front lines and doctors, nurses, like everyone who's trying to keep it together and trying to help others. What are some tools or coping mechanisms or ways that they could protect themselves as well so that they can keep doing good work?
I'm passionate about this word, and it's probably the key to the beginning of all. It is awareness. So a lot of times healing professionals and empaths, for sure, the lack of awareness means we will get taken out. And sometimes our awareness shrinks, even if we're mindful of, hey, protect yourself, go in, do the work, but recharge that battery. We'll forget. Especially empaths, we get into work and, after a month, sometimes 2 months. And if you're not really aware, sometimes after a decade, you're like, I'm burnt out. Yeah. So step one is awareness of knowing you have to recharge yourself and care for yourself and do that. The practice for me personally would be nature. Yeah. But it's back to that meds. Am I eating right? Am I exercising? Am I getting my sleep? As an empath, am I refilling my cup? To me, it's reconnecting to nature, and everybody should find their own modality to do it for themselves. Some people are super social, so they'll hit yoga class. They'll go out with their friends. They'll play. They'll join a bowling league. It's whatever you do. Yeah. A lot of empaths need to step away from certain energy and replug into something that brings their consciousness back. To me, it's nature and animals. So many different ways to do that. If you got a pet, taking your dog to the river.
You know what was interesting?
Go to the river and look at the ducks.
What was interesting? Definitely, I 100% agree with nature and exercise. But you talk about pets, and I thought when this first happened, I go, oh my God, people are under financial distress. They don't even have enough money for themselves. The animal shelters. I was thinking of everything. I go, the animal shelters, there's going to be thousands of dogs and cats and animals that are abandoned and not fed. And it's been the opposite, where everyone wants a dog or cat because they're stuck at home, and it's like the emotional therapy animal is keeping some people alive and well,
I saw another meme. I might be on social media too much sometimes, but I saw another meme that, dogs are just loving this right now, right? Yeah. The dogs are like, why is everybody home? This is awesome. Yeah. The dogs are, about to get my own attention. So you're right. Back to that secular family, including the pets. Yeah.
And I guess having knowing yourself and having something that brings you joy, like for some people it's getting on Zoom and talking to friends or family. I did that last Sunday night, I think it was. Got on with 3 old friends in San Francisco, and we all had a drink in our hands on via Zoom, and we just were laughing, and it was like a 100-pound weight came off my shoulders,
Outstanding. Outstanding. What I was curious of is I wonder if that would become the new normal. And I hope it doesn't, where people are like, man, this Zoom thing's not too bad. And they don't replace the true social connectivity with the technology. I hope that doesn't end up there, but I think it is an amazing coping skill to be using right now. Heck yeah.
Yeah, it will and it won't, right? I think that it works so well and it's so efficient, and you could get 10 people on a Zoom, 2 people on a Zoom. You could see them, you could hear them, but it won't replace physical one-on-one or in-person interpersonal skills. Those skills will be even more valuable. But I think there's a lot of ways it actually does good, and so one of the things the shifts that's going to happen. I think you talked about, tribalism, people growing their own food and communities and stuff like this. The U.S. and the world is becoming so urban at such a high rate over the last 100 years, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of negative consequences. And we even see, these population centers, whether it's disease, like, in China where this started, as far as I know, and, in New York where it spread so fast, and or poverty, inner city, stuff like that. There might be an exodus now of main cities. I mean, a lot of people they're going to say, hey, if I could get 5 acres in the country, 2 hours from a city, that sounds like heaven right now, right? So,
Agreed.
and with technology, with Zoom and stuff, maybe when everything quote unquote gets back to normal, there's 30% of the population that goes, wait, that working remotely with technology sort of worked for me, and I didn't waste a whole lot of time, and I was still able to do my job. So maybe I don't need to live right in, within commuting distance of downtown Sac or a city. So it's sort of secondary. We're not thinking about it now, but if it, the de-urbanization of our society again over the next 20 years, if that's a trend that this starts, that's going to be a pretty powerful thing.
It in the tighter circle that I know of, call it 5%. I don't know, but that was the trend already. So the tribe of people I know, whether it's the green people, like, let's get off the grid, let's get solar, let's not depend on anything other than our own tribal community. That was beginning in the people I associate with quite prevalently. And I think it's doubled. If I threw a number at it, I'm just going to throw that word out there.
Yeah.
And I think this is a huge catalyst for it. So that crave to get off the dependency of XYZ for the sake of connecting that way, beautiful. Yeah, de-urbanization could be, but like you said, some people could get left behind.
Oh yeah.
And those are the people that are probably suffering the most, right? So hopefully it doesn't widen the gap, but smooths the gap. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think, like I said, the whole illusion that there's opportunity and it's equal in the U.S. and that people have a fighting chance to get out of, hard times if you're born into hard times and stuff. And the people who are underserved, minorities, or people that are in poverty or from certain areas, I think that whole illusion that it doesn't exist is completely gone. I mean, I think you're basically either rich or poor depending on your lifestyle. And going forward the next 5 years, that's going to be more prevalent than ever. But that's just what I see. I hope a lot, and people, hopefully, the things you're talking about, meditation, exercise, diet, nutrition, sleep, positive mental health, being aware of these things so you could work on them and make it a cultural shift so it goes beyond you but reaches others. That's something that there are no barriers. That's something that we just have to get it started. But once that spark is going and the fire is lit, there's no reason why it can't spread. So, Mike, yeah,
amen to that, man.
You're doing amazing stuff. If people have questions or want some resources, want to talk to you, want to help you help others, where can they contact you with your nonprofit, or where can they get in touch with you?
Can I give us a cell phone and social media?
Whatever you need.
No problem. Yeah. My cell phone's always open. It hasn't changed for probably a decade plus, 20 years. So 916-804-2998. Phoenix Wellness Sacramento is still alive on Instagram and Facebook. But what will never change is my name. So Mike Shaldone, Shaldone. You find me on social media or the 916 number. And the new, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
I'm in meditation, I've been studying shamanism, and I did this animal journey, and just things that came through loud and clear was this lion. And so the nonprofit we're launching very soon is called Pride, Recovery, and Wellness. And so the pride being, multifunctional there, the pride of the person and the individual as an emotion, but also the pride of a group of lions that are just ready to take charge of their life. So that's the nonprofit we're building, which should be done probably within 30, 60 days, and rolling out this summer for summer programs for kids in our community.
Oh, amazing, Mike. Yeah, that's great. And let me know as it's getting up and running because you know you always got my support, brother. I'm happy to help.